Hello, what is up everybody? It's your boy JT here. Right, before we start this video, I just want to make like a few little announcements. Firstly, you may have known that I had like this fundraiser thingy to be able to afford to start testosterone. I was crowdfunding the money for that. I was asking you guys and my friends and family if they could help me out with that, and I managed to reach the goal quite recently. It was actually quite a while ago, but I haven't uploaded in a while. I'm very sorry about that. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone who like donated to that or shared that. That's been a really big help. So I should be starting testosterone very soon. My next project in that sort of area is I am helping my boyfriend CJ do the same thing for himself. So now I will be linking that fundraiser down below. If you want to help out him and be able to start testosterone, that would be amazing. I would really appreciate that. He would really appreciate that. Obviously, again, if you can't, that's perfectly okay. Just, you know, maybe share it or something if you want. That's also helpful. The bracelets that I was selling to help my crowdfunding project, they're like braided wall bracelets. I'm still selling them now to help his project. And I also have new designs. Before they were just in the trans colours, now they're in the bi, the pan and the rainbow colours. So if you want one of them, you can get one, and they're only £1 each with maybe a bit of extra postage packaging depending on where you live, and you can buy one of them and all the proceeds go towards CJ's GoFundMe page. Right, so jumping into the topic of this, I'm so out of focus, sorry. New layout, haven't quite figured out how to film right here yet. Sorry about that. Yes, jumping straight into the topic of this video. A while ago, was it a couple months, a few weeks? Quite a while ago, I uploaded a video onto youtube.com talking about how I believe and I read the fictional character Peter Parker, also known as Spider-Man, to be a trans man. And a lot of people really didn't like this video. I got a lot of comments of people trying to disprove my own personal reading of media. So this prompted me to make this video talking about something that I learned in my first year of my creative media film and TV course in college that I'm currently about to go into the second year of. And yeah, I was just going to talk about this thing that I learned, and also how it kind of very often intersects with queer readings of media. And I have to read off my phone because there's a lot of information and I can't remember names and things, so I know that probably annoys you. Sorry. So, chapter 1. What exactly is Death of the Author? Basically, it's an essay written by Ronald Barthes. I know I pronounced that wrong. Like, they're such easy words as well. I'm just so dyslexic. It was an essay written by him, originally about books, but as a media student, we were taught to use it and apply it to films and TV shows, but people who take English literature and stuff apply it to books as well. It's basically an essay about how when an author, or in our case a director or a screenwriter or whoever, release a piece of media, they're basically, in theory, after that they die, because they release it, hand it over to the audience, the consumers, the readers, and then it belongs to the consumers, because we don't really know what the author intended the media to mean. We don't really know that, so there's no point considering the author's background or religion or political stance when analysing media, because we will never truly know what the author actually intended. So we kind of have to detach media from the person who created it, because the media now belongs to us, and it is up for us to interpret it using our backgrounds and everything like we believe in and our personal experiences, and put that onto the media instead of taking what we think the author might have meant based on what we have heard about them, because, you know, we don't really know that, so we just have to detach that from the media and forget about the author and who they were or who they are as a person, because this doesn't even apply to dead authors. Obviously this applies to authors who are still alive, but like in theory they're dead because they have nothing really to do with the thing that they created. Now they just handed it out to the consuming audience, and it now belongs to us, and we have to interpret that, and we are allowed to interpret that using our own experiences and our own political standings and our own backgrounds and our own identities, and whatever we put onto this story or this piece of media or these characters is now as correct as what the author actually intended it to mean. So, because obviously we own it now because it's not the author's, it's ours. So like whatever we read into this or however we interpret this is just as correct as. Then I have to read off my phone because there's a lot of information and I can't remember names and things, so I know that probably annoys you. Sorry. So chapter 1. What exactly is Death of the Author? Basically it's an essay written by Ronald Barthes. I know I pronounced that wrong. Like, they're such easy words as well, I'm just so dyslexic. It was an essay written by him, originally about books, but like as like a media student, like we were taught to use it and apply it to films and TV shows, and but like people who take English literature and stuff apply it to books as well. It's basically an essay about how when an author, or like in our case a director or screenwriter or whoever, release a piece of media, they're basically, in theory, after that they die, because they release it, hand it over to the audience, the consumers, the readers, and then it then belongs to the consumers, because we don't really know what the author intended the media to mean. We don't really know that, so there's no point considering the author's background or religion or political stance when analysing media, because we will never truly know what the author actually intended. So we kind of have to detach media from the person who created it, because the media now belongs to us, and it is up for us to interpret it using our backgrounds and everything like we believe in and our personal experiences, and put that onto the media instead of taking what we think the author might have meant based on what we have heard about them, because, you know, we don't really know that, so we just have to detach that from the media and forget about the author and who they were or who they are as a person, because this doesn't even apply to dead authors. Obviously this applies to authors who are still alive, but like in theory they're dead because they have nothing really to do with the thing that they created. Now they just handed it out to the consuming audience, and it now belongs to us, and we have to interpret that, and we are allowed to interpret that using our own experiences and our own political standings and our own backgrounds and our own identities, and whatever we put onto this story or this piece of media or these characters is now as correct as what the author actually intended it to mean. So, because obviously we own it now because it's not the author's, it's ours. So like whatever we read into this or however we interpret this is just as correct as any other reading, because every individual person will have their own meaning. Chapter 1.5, let's talk about Harry Potter for a bit. I personally like using Death of the Author whenever I read or watch anything to do with Harry Potter, because J.K. Rowling is an author who just loves adding to the media that she made in stupid ways that we don't really need. And I believe that there are fan theories that are so much better than what J.K. Rowling has just slapped on after she released the book. So if the book was released and she just left it at that, and that then belongs to the fans and they can do whatever they like with it, but she just has nothing to do with it anymore, that would have made for a much better series of books and then films. For instance, a Harry Potter musical, which is a fan passion project about Harry Potter, is so much better, and pretty much everyone who enjoys Harry Potter says that it's so much better than Cursed Child, which was written by J.K. Rowling. So like, if she had just left Harry Potter as it is and then the fans kind of owned it, that would have just made for better things to be added on to the franchise than what she added on. And another example is, like, there's just so many better fan headcanons of the characters and like what the characters do and what that means than this that J.K. Rowling tweeted saying that the werewolves in her series are a metaphor for people with AIDS, which everyone took as offensive. Like, she depicts werewolves as mostly bad guys who enjoy spreading their disease around and inflicting it on other people and like to hurt people. And she was like, yeah, I like people with AIDS. And I was like, okay. Like, we all like a little twink who sometimes turns into a dog and is angsty about it. We love him. And, you know, it's sad that he's a werewolf, but it's nothing like AIDS. It just isn't. It's very yikes that she just added that. Another horrible thing that J.K. Rowling did is the Snape redemption arc. She obviously like wrote Snape as a bad character, then in the last book she was like, we're gonna redeem him now. This wasn't in this book, this was like the last couple of books. I haven't read Harry Potter in a very long time. Well, like near the end of the story she was like, we're gonna redeem him now, we're gonna give him like this tragic backstory, and we're gonna, at the very end, we're gonna make the main character of Harry forgive him and think, oh, he was actually a really good guy and really brave and we actually love him now. But his redemption arc didn't actually excuse any of the bad things he did. So using Death of the Author, we can say, yeah, well, maybe Harry forgave him, sure, but I'm not going to. So it's very obvious that J.K. Rowling, with like the story and the things she's said in interviews and on social media and stuff, it's very obvious that she wants the whole audience to forgive and love Snape now. And you know, it's okay if you like Snape as a character, but for me personally and for a whole load of Harry Potter fans, we don't want to forgive Snape for all the bullying children he did just because he had a crush on someone. I'm sorry, I don't want to forgive this horrible slimy incel, okay? So using Death of the Author, we can just interpret the story as the main character forgave him, but he still isn't a good person. And we can ignore all the forcing us to think that he's a good person that J.K. Rowling did. We're just gonna throw that away. We're gonna interpret the books as it's Snape still a bad person. Harry's just weird and decided to forgive him. Because Harry is a weird character, not very good, and makes a lot of bad decisions. Chapter 2, Queer People and Queer Readings and how this intersects with Death of the Author. I have noticed, like, within the queer or LGBTQ+ community, a lot of people really like writing and making up like queer theories and queer headcanons and queer readings of media that they enjoy. If a queer person likes a piece of media, they will quite often read one of the characters as LGBTQ+. I believe this is just like my personal like thoughts on this, is that this probably stems from the lack of actual representation that we get as a community. We're like never really shown properly in media anywhere. We have like nothing that we can relate to as queer people in most medias. So if we see a character that we like, we're probably going to be like, can you be queer please? That would be lovely. This is why queer baiting exists, is writers and people who make media know that the LGBTQ+ community are going to probably read into characters as LGBTQ+ if they just slip a couple little hints in. This is why they slip those hints in and then like fail to give us any actual representation. They just like, that's enough. They think it's queer, but also we get to keep our show all like PG and nobody knows, and we're not actually going to involve a real queer character because some people might not like that, which is not very nice to the community at all. But that is why writers do it, so they can appeal to everyone and everyone's happy apart from everyone isn't happy, because we actually deserve actual representation apart from us just reading into characters. Different subcultures within the LGBTQ+ community, who are each desperately trying to find themselves in fictional characters, we're all looking for this representation and this relatableness to a character. We each look for different things. One of my favourite examples of this is the film Mulan. You've probably seen it. It's a cute Disney film, love it. Got some absolute bangers in it. I myself and many other trans masculine, trans men, people who I have talked to about this, say that they read the story of Mulan and the character of Mulan as very trans-masc. They think it's like a story that they can relate to in a trans-masculine sort of way. We really like the scenes where Mulan is trying to present masculine in clothing and trying to talk in a masculine way, and is asking the little dragon, like, how do men act? Do men do this? Like, we really relate to this because we have spent a lot of our lives trying to appear very masculine and trying to be read as male, and to see a fictional character doing this, we're like, yeah, I can relate to this. This is like a very trans-masc story. On the total other side of the scale, I have heard trans women and trans feminine people say that they relate to the character's Mulan because she had to pretend to be male because that's what society wanted from her when she was actually a woman, and she just had to put on this persona that was really hard for her to come across as male just to fit into society for that moment, knowing that after that she'll be able to live as female again. And lots of trans women relate to that sort of narrative in it, and that's what they read from it and see it as a trans feminine story. I have also heard lots of like bisexual or pansexual people, or people who are attracted to multiple genders, say that they really relate to Shang, the love interest in Mulan, because he is very clearly written to be attracted to Mulan when he thought they were a man, and then when they reveal themselves as a woman, he still is attracted to her. Like he looks at them in the same way, just like, yeah, this is a person, I like him here, and then I still like him here. And like, as someone who like is attracted to people of any gender, I kind of relate to that story, because like, if I thought someone was a bloke and they're like, nah, actually I'm a girl, I'd be like, I'd still feel the same about them. Like, if I fancied them before, I would fancy them after, because it doesn't really matter to me what your gender is. Like, if I like you as a person, I will. And lots of people think that that is Shang's narrative, and that's what he feels throughout the film, and they relate to that character. If we take Death of the Author into account, according to that, like trans people who have their own narrative of this story, like bi or pan people who have their own narrative of this story, like no matter what you're reading of this, every single person, theirs is all equally correct, because we don't know what Disney meant when they wrote Mulan. And it doesn't really matter, because we have these readings and they mean that to us, so that is then therefore what Mulan is about. And we could write theories about that and they are correct, because that's how we interpreted it. But I know for like a fact that when they wrote Mulan, they probably didn't think, let's make it so that trans men can relate to Mulan, and let's make it so that bi people can relate to Shang or whatever. Like, they were probably just trying to write a funny story for kids. They're like, oh, this woman dresses up as a boy, and that's kind of cute, and maybe we can learn about some moral from this. I can't even remember what the moral of Mulan is. I just remember it's really queer. Yeah, so probably a Disney film isn't that queer, but we can interpret it like that, and that is then true. Another piece of media that I really enjoy is this song by an artist called Charlie XCX. The song's called Boys, and basically it's a fun pop song. The lyrics are about boys and thinking about boys a lot and being distracted by the thought of boys and not being able to do things because you're thinking about boys, and the music video's just got loads of boys in it. And I always related to this song as someone who is attracted to men a lot and who really likes men. I always like, yeah, I think about boys a lot. I relate to this song. And so I always read it like that. But then I found out that there are some women who are exclusively attracted to women, or primarily attracted to women, or just like attracted to women, who will sing along with this song, and they will interpret it as like an ironic sort of sarcastic meaning, and they will say, oh, whenever I sung this song, I always thought of it to mean that, like, because of the tone of the song and how many times it says the word boys and how like upbeat it is, I always interpret it to mean like I'm not really thinking about boys, that's just like an excuse, if you know what I mean. And it's like, I was being sarcastic, like of course I'm not actually this obsessed with boys. And I've also heard people say that maybe like not even like a queer woman, maybe just a straight woman would sing it in a sarcastic way, as like, why do people think that girls are so obsessed with men? Like, I'm gonna sing this something like, we know we're not obsessed with men, like, just like, because like the media and men always think that, I love the way I said men then, men, like, people always think that young girls especially are always obsessed with boys and they only think about boys. So a lot of people say, yeah, it's an ironic song because, like, yeah, I'll just play up to that stereotype a bit. I'll pretend to be like obsessed with boys, but I'm not. I can actually do things other than think about boys. Again, like, none of these interpretations are wrong because, like, you know, death of the author. You couldn't walk up to someone singing this song who you knew maybe was singing it sarcastically or was singing it because they really liked girls and be like, no, you can't sing this song, you're not allowed to enjoy this because I know you're singing it and like, and you're meaning the lyrics how I don't mean them and I don't think it means this, so you're not allowed to do that. That's not how interpretation in media works, and you can't say that their idea of what the song means is wrong, just, you know, because you can't, that's about how it works. Chapter 3, is this chapter 3? This is chapter 3. Spider-Man is still trans. I have read a lot of Spider-Man comics, like a lot. I have watched a lot of Spider-Man films. I have, you know, played Spider-Man games. I don't even play computer games, but I have spent an embarrassing amount of time just playing rubbishy little like side-scrolly jumpy, I don't even know any game terminology, just playing as Spider-Man, beating up people just because I wanted to live out my fantasy of being Spider-Man, you know? I love Spider-Man, and I do cosplay Spider-Man. I've gone to a couple Comic Cons dressed as Spider-Man, just because I love Spider-Man that much. I love every single adaptation of Spider-Man. As you can tell, I'm reading my script. Because I know I couldn't articulate how much I like Spider-Man and keep it short. That's why, because I know I'd ramble. Every single adaptation of Spider-Man I like, and I take something from each version of Spider-Man that there is. Because like in the comic universe, there's hundreds and hundreds of versions of every character, and Spider-Man's been redone 100 times, like Spider-Monkey or Spider-Ham. You get it? It's a pig, but it's Spider-Man. Some of my favourite versions of Spider-Man is Miles Morales. I can never say his last name right because I'm stupid and I can't read. The version in the Deadpool and Spider-Man comics is really funny and cute, and I love his chemistry of Deadpool. And obviously the current Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland, I really see myself in him, like as like this cute little teenage boy who's like nerdy and enthusiastic about things. I'm like, yeah, that's me. I love that character. I relate to Spider-Man in many ways, obviously, but one of the main things that I see in him is I see the trans narrative. I look at that character and I see so many similarities with his own journey and mine as a trans man. Like the coming of age narrative, obviously, to start off with, him dealing with like high school and his age and everything, like the way that's written, I can relate to that with my own trans narrative. And also his superhero narrative, learning how to deal with his powers and everything, and that on top of the coming of age. I also can relate that very strongly to me dealing with my own transness on top of everything else I have to deal with just as life, and like the balance of being a superhero and being like a normal kid, and just like with me trying to deal with my transition and going to college and having a relationship and everything. Just like the way he deals with everything and the way he reacts to scenarios and stuff, I can really see my own transness and my own trans story in that. I find the character of Spider-Man to have so many character traits and personality traits and like physical traits that I also have, but because of my transness, like certain ways that he acts and behaves, I'm like, yeah, I do that too, and that's because I'm trans. You can watch my last video about Spider-Man being trans, the one that I mentioned at the beginning. I will link it down there if you want to know more about this. Myself and so many other people who I have encountered on the internet and through talking about my Spider-Man is trans theory on the internet, do read Peter Parker or Spider-Man as a trans man, and some of us read him as such because of our own experience being trans, and we relate to him through that. And I've seen a lot of people who aren't even trans themselves just think it would be cool for him to be a trans man, and yeah, why shouldn't I read him as a trans man? Because people are trans, you know, someone has to do it. You know, like, why wouldn't he be? There are trans people, so why wouldn't he be one of them? And you know what I'm gonna say, because I've said it 20 times in this video before, but you know, that is therefore correct. People read him as trans, therefore he is. Stan Lee probably didn't write him as trans. He wasn't created to be trans, but he doesn't belong to Stan Lee and the other people who helped in creating him anymore. He belongs to the consumers and the readers and the viewers, and if only one of us believed him to be trans, he would be, because we say he is. Right, so I hope you liked the video. Yeah, hope you really enjoyed this. Give it a thumbs up if you want. I am happy to discuss theories and like interpretation of media and stuff. It's something I'm really interested in, and I love it so much. I definitely really want to be doing more videos about film and interpretation of film and everything, because that's my biggest interest. So if you want to talk to me about that in the comments, go ahead. If you want to call me wrong in the comments, go ahead, but I might delete it or argue with you. So it depends on what mood I'm in. Hope you really enjoyed this. Remember, you can check out all my social medias and stuff. If you want to help CJ with his fundraiser, he would really appreciate that, and so would I. You can buy the bracelets. I'm also now selling some Pop Final figure things, you know, the little collectible figures. I had some old ones that I didn't want, so I'm selling them on my Depop. Or you can message me on any of my social medias about them if you want to buy one and you don't have a Depop store. They're also going to fund CJ's transition, which would be lit if you could help me, you know, and you'd also get some cool secondhand collectibles from them. They're in really good condition because I look after my stuff. Right, so thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed rambling about Spider-Man. Okay, thank you very much. Thumbs up, comment. I already said that. Bye!